What's an incredibly American thing Americans don't realize is American? Free refills at restaurants. Edit. My inbox detonated, send help. And with ice. Many, many years ago I was visiting the south of France with a friend. It was a hot summer day, we stopped at a little bistro and in broken French we asked for water with ice. The waiter replied in English, "Ah, American champagne." I was in France and tried to pronounce water. Apparently, my pronunciation was so bad that they just brought out the English menu on an iPad. Booty tried. It's pronounced O. Oh. 1 glass of water coming right up. Ranch. Back when I worked in Panera Bread, a customer asked for ranch. We didn't carry it back then, and when we informed him, he said, "Are y'all communists?" Currently working at Panera, and this is a frequent occurrence. I was a manager for Panera in my early 20s. Lady came up and said her French onion soup wasn't hot enough. No problem, they'll just get you another cup. Give her a fresh one from the soup well right in front of me. She then proceeds to try it on the counter. Mind you, other guests' meals were being plated on that very same counter, and tells me it's not hot enough. So I proceed to apologize and check the temperature of the soup on the line. It's definitely hot enough, and I showed her. She said the thermometer is broken. I told her, "Therese, nothing I can do, but we have a microwave out front if you'd like to use it to heat it up." My boss walks by, I'm shift manager and Hess assistant, and she stops him to tell him that I spit in her soup. Luckily my manager knows that I would never tamper with food. He chuckles and goes, "Shitty's reverse flash spit in your soup?" Mum, I'm sorry, but I highly doubt that. I don't remember how it all ended, but I know she ducked off and Brian and I had a good laugh about it. Brian's always been solid. One of the only good fast food managers and not some corporate tyrant. Brian always has too much shit to do and not enough time to do it, so if you're coming up to him with some shit, it better be worth it. Brian is the kind of guy that as you took off for a family emergency, he'd still pay you because, we've all been there. Brian is the manager who says the customer is always right, until they ducking ain't. Brian is the kind of guy that will recommend where to get your car fixed properly for cheap and come pick you up at the shop to get you to your shift on time. Prescription drug commercials. Happy dancing while side effects are being listed. May cause diarrhea, vomiting, blindness, pulmonary embolism or death. Thanking military people for their service. Handing your credit card to a stranger, having them walk away, swipe it, then bring it back to like they didn't just put a down payment on a new house with it. When I first started working in hospitality, I had an American customer who just gave me their card. I took it to the register, paid the order with a swipe and gave it back. I was told by my manager to never do that again, lol. That wouldn't have been even slightly unusual here in the US. Sometimes you'll even hand a waiter or bartender your card without receiving the check, if you're in a hurry. When you open a tab at some bars, they just keep your card until you ask for the check. And funnily enough, bars are the only legitimate businesses that have ever taken advantage of that and scammed me. Drive-through ATMs and everything else. I didn't learn we had drive-through liquor stores until later in my life. American here. When I studied abroad, I was smiling and friendly to strangers. In London they looked like I wanted to steal something from them. Saw this with my American friends when I lived in Moscow. They walked around with this pleasant, anticipatory smile on their face and people thought they were mentally challenged. Ha! I remember a Russian friend explaining to me that Americans just look like idiots, smiling for no reason all the time. Russians apparently smile when they have something to smile about. I read a paper that basically says it is because of our high immigrant past. Apparently, when people with diverse languages who cannot understand each other verbally all the time are in close quarters with each other, they use physical cues, such as constant smiling, to communicate. Ha! I remember a Russian friend explaining to me that Americans just look like idiots, smiling for no reason all the time. Russians apparently smile when they have something to smile about. I took a Russian language class once, and the teacher was from Uzbekistan. She mentioned some things similar. One day she brought in her wedding photo. They weren't smiling, even though they were both happy. Smiling for camera is also something a lot of non-Western cultures don't do. I'm American. When I moved to Australia, I was constantly asked 3 questions. 1. How do you pronounce aluminum? 2. How do you pronounce Jaguar? 3. Are red Solo cups a real thing? In all the movies, whenever there is a house party, everyone has a red Solo cup. I was caught completely off guard by the Solo cup question. Ever since then, I've been very attentive to these damn red cups. They really are everywhere. Edit. Well, this blew the duck up. Keep the questions coming. This is a fun read. I kept getting asked how many guns I owned and whether or not I thought Trump was a good president. When friends and I did a Eurotrip years ago, upon hearing we live in the South, everyone would ask if we had pickup trucks. The cult of high school college sports. It seems strange to anyone from Europe, but after starting to watch us sports, I realized that a lot of states either don't have a team in a major league or will only have one. It's not like here in the UK where there are 92 teams in the Football League and even more below that. Most of the major leagues in the US only have 30 to 40 teams. That's why people are so invested in college sports. A lot of the time they're the only local teams. Yeah, it blew my mind when I learned pretty much every city in the UK had a pro soccer team. College sports are the closest thing we have to that. Like, I'd love to watch MLB, but there isn't a professional team in my state to follow or that even shows up on local TV for me. We only just got a pro soccer team, North Carolina, and we're a state of over 10 million people. Edit. Quit commenting about other pro sports teams. I was only talking about MLB, the actual MLB, not feeder teams, when I said there wasn't a pro MLB team. Liberal left wing. Yeah, in my country, it is either associated with the political center or with moderate right wing, never with left wing. Might just be me, but I do notice when you ask Americans on the internet where they're from, they reply with either a state or a city instead of their country. The thing is, it doesn't cause any confusion, since most people know most American states and at least the major cities. You don't often see an Indonesian person, for example, say they're from West Java. Just that they're from Indonesia. Edit: 1. Thank you for the awards. 2. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, just an American one. I also don't think it's because of cultural variation or population. I'm Indian and I've never seen anyone say that they're from Rajasthan or Kerala on a more global level. A lot of Indian states speak different languages, have different cuisine, and live on different terrain. I think it has more to do with the fact that people broadly know American states and the distinctions between them through movies and American news and politics. I also find that Americans often include where they were born. For example, I'm from Philly but originally from Jersey. Edit: I understand that the US is big and has many different regions. I'm Canadian and find that Canadians typically don't answer that way, despite being very large. 100%. Small nuance, I don't think it's where you're born, rather where you were raised. It makes a lot of sense actually. I grew up in Miami but have been living in NYC for a few years now. If I travel to Texas and someone asks me where I'm from, it feels wrong to say Miami because I haven't lived there in 7 years and it's changed a lot since I've been a resident. But at the same time, I can't really say I'm from NYC because I'm not a native New Yorker, and saying you're from NYC pretty much means you grew up there. So it makes sense to say both. I've lived in 7 states, but only just moved to the latest one, but I haven't lived in my childhood state in 20 years, so when someone asked where I'm from, I'm never really sure what to say. I've lived in 5 different states and I also struggle with that question. Daily driving pickup trucks. We do that in Australia too, kind of. I feel like Australia is what would happen if America and the UK had a baby. At school we were taught the Australian political system was a mix of the US and UK systems. They called it Washminster, Washington plus Westminster. Not including tax on prices displayed in stores. That feeling when you want to spend your very last dollar on a can of Arizona iced tea, famously, the price is on the can, and the cashier asks for $1.07. Need a penny? Take a penny. Just don't take 8 pennies. Seriously, had a cashier tell me this once.